I'm Mel Stewart, and this is a GMM takeover of the SwimSwam podcast. Joining me today, Bill Dorenkott, director of Ohio State Swimming and Diving, coming off his 17th season, prepping for his 18th. This past spring, the Scarlet and Gray women notched their fifth Big Ten conference title, and the men earned a respectable third.
This episode of the SwimSwam podcast is sponsored by Commit Swimming, SwimSwam's exclusive team management software partner. Since 2015, Commit has been providing coaches with swimming's leading workout management software. And now, Commit has team management software too. Commit wants to help you make the switch from Team Unify to a simpler, more powerful solution. Their onboarding and customer service team will walk you through every step of the way. Check them out at commitswimming.com to book your demo today. That's COMMIT swimming.com.
Bill, before we get into this, we're on SwimSwam. I have to break news. I rarely break news myself, but I want to break some news. I'm aware of some information. I'm aware that you were a finalist for USA Swimming's national team director, and when I heard that, I heard it early on. And when I heard it, I was like, you know what? That makes sense. And I did what everybody in swimming does. I immediately started calling around to Olympians and calling around to my peers, called up Braden Keith, our editor-in-chief and co-founder. And they mirrored what I was thinking. They were like, yeah, no, Bill's absolutely that guy. Kudos to you. Congratulations. I think that's an honor. Can you give us any insight into what that was? I know we now have a national team director, but being a finalist it's a big deal.
Mel, I haven't publicly shared with anybody that I was in the mix. I was reached out to and asked if I would take a look at the position, and I did. And as I looked at the position, there's no question it's a unique opportunity. And at the end of the day, I'm in a win-win position. I've got a great job. I work at an unbelievable university, and so as I went through that process, there's a lot of things that come into play, right? So obviously your family, my wife, our children who are starting to get a little bit older. But for the past 34 years, the only thing I've known is coaching. And so as I'm on the tail end of my career, one of my goals is to pay back to the sport that's given me so much. And so I enjoyed the process. I do believe we got the right person in Greg Meehan. I think he's put a great staff together. And so I'm humbled to have been a part of that. I'm grateful for what I learned, and I'm excited for the future here at Ohio State.
It's interesting because previously, if you go back to, let's just put it on the table. Our Paris Olympics was a great Olympics for Team USA. It's fine. We performed. Team USA performs, but it was, if you're looking at the metrics, the weakest performance since 1988. And I can say that with a full heart. I was a 1988 Olympian. And it was less than desirable results. And in 1989, USA Swimming established the national team director position with Dennis Persley, who had a great CV. And then we had Mark Schubert. Then we had Frank Bush. And what's fascinating to me was that position at USA Swimming financially was a step up for a lot of coaches. And
sorry about that, my light just went off. No.
That's all right.
When I move, I lose my light.
No, that's okay. You have to have your light. But the interesting thing was that financially, it's a lateral move for a lot of our senior coaches, our master coaches, And I was like, wow, this position is a position you've really got to want. You've got to talk to your spouse and say, hey, do you want to move to another city? Because I'm just saying that financially, it didn't make sense to me, for a lot of coaches, changing their lifestyle. And I thought that was interesting because previously it had been.
So I guess two thoughts. One is, the names you mentioned. So I've been a part of the U.S. national team staff since 2001, and so I've had the opportunity to work with Denny and with Frank and with Mark and with Lindsay, and I hold each of them in high esteem. The second piece, the financial piece, I'm just going to be honest with you. I've never made a decision in my life that was based on money. That being said, I'm not going to apologize for working hard and the fact our staff does well, but I can use our camps as an example. We've built up a very robust camp program with your help, and I don't take a dime from our camps. It goes all to our assistant coaches, and it's just so the idea of even looking at that position or considering it, it's really to pay it forward, right? It's just to take care of that next generation of athletes and coaches, and so whether that's at Ohio State or it's with USA Swimming, that's where I'm at in my career, and I feel pretty strongly about that.
I think in terms of lifestyle for family, the university lifestyle feels like a warmer blanket and a more comfortable family. But that's some I don't coach. I don't have this career trajectory. But let's get into.
Well, I'd be lying to you if when I told my wife that we're going to stay and they're going to go in a different direction, there was a big smile. So she would echo your thoughts, right? She loves being part of a university community, loves it, and everything that goes along with it.
It's a good lifestyle. It is a unique, wonderful lifestyle.
Yeah.
So let's get into the process of your trajectory and how you deconstruct each season when it's over. So take us through that process and use that analysis on your last season.
Well, it's actually, we have a process at Ohio State. I'm a state employee. And so as a state employee, you get to the end of the year and you have an HR review. And part of that review process is documenting. You do a self-review and you look back and say, all right, this is what we did. This is what we did well. This is where we need to get better. Here's some opportunities for growth. And I don't know that I've ever come off of a season and felt fulfilled. And even this season, same thing. And so more often than not, as coaches, we look and think about the things that we didn't get or where we came up short. But as I looked back this year and we put together that document, that self-review, and I do it with our staff and we call it Points of Pride. And we started last summer, right? And we started with the Paris Olympics, and we were fortunate to have 8 Ohio State swimmers and divers in Paris. And then we went from there and we went through World Championships in December, and then we went to the Big Tens and the NCAAs. And then you look at this spring and even into this summer. And as we look back, we said, man, we got a lot done. And ultimately, on SwimSwam or within our community, I mean, we're college coaches. And so we get evaluated at what we do at the NCAAs or at the Big Tens. But there's so much more to it. And whether it's helping your kids get jobs when they graduate, whether it's raising money, whether it's preserving your program, whether it's creating opportunities. And so, our NCAA results, if we're talking just athletically or swimming, I thought we could have been a little bit better. We're probably a couple places short on the women's side. And I think that's in part because we have a young group and probably not as strong in the relays as we need to be. On the guys' side, I thought we achieved at about the level that we could have or should have this year at the NC2As. I like the group we have. I like the group we have returning. At the Big Tens, I thought we had an outside chance to win a championship on the women's side. I was criticized a little bit for saying freshmen don't win championships, but the truth is they don't. And in this case, our freshmen played a big role in it. Guys were third. We really wanted to be second. We came up a little bit short. 16th year in a row, we've been top 3 in the league, and we want to continue to compete for championships on both sides.
Picking one thing out of that, only because I just read your alumni newsletter, and there was one metric that I liked, and a lot of people don't think about this, but I do in a modern age because I'm a business owner and I'm always hiring people and picking winners and losers. You said your seniors are graduating, and they were graduating, and everybody was entering a career with employment. Or they were moving on. They were going to be a professional swimmer if they were staying in the pool. And that matters because I feel like we have a lot of young people who are going into the graduating college, and and it looks a little bit bleak, certainly right now.
So Gene Smith was my boss for first 17 years I was here. Ross Bjork took over this year. Gene retired. He moved down to Arizona. I still keep in touch with Gene, and his greatest legacy in his storied career as an athletic director will be the Eugene D. Smith Leadership Institute, which is the gap or the bridge between academics and athletics. And so probably this metric is unbelievable. Of all the graduating seniors across 36 sports at Ohio State, 97% were placed in either a job, graduate or professional program, or signed a professional contract. 97%. And that's something I'm incredibly proud of. And so our program has been very active in that institute, and our kids have been the beneficiaries.
I'm a big proponent of state schools, and I read something somewhere else where Ohio State was, they're like, here's the writing on the wall. If you're not well versed in AI and you don't know how to enter this age, you're not going to be employable. It's going to be those who adopt and move fast. And that Ohio State was leaning into, and then they gave this breakdown of how they were going to do it. And I was like, yeah, that's it. And a lot of people are afraid of this new technology, but it's another tool, and it's not going anywhere. It's here to stay. So I did like seeing that, and I do see that with universities that are forward looking. And so
Midwest pragmatic. I mean, that's our university president. Like, let's lean into it. Let's go.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't want to get too deep into this interview without at least talking about House versus the NCAA. A lot of people, that's when they see, hey, top college coach, this is the topic that they're waiting for. Let's overarching. Can you give me a perspective of somebody who cares about swimming, who cares about athletes who are developing and going into college? And can you address the fear that families or young swimmers might feel about their opportunities and diminishing opportunities for scholarships and opportunities to swim in college? And so that's one part. I'd like to, if you can comment on that. And then the second part is, of course, what is Ohio State doing in this post-House versus the NCAA world?
Sure. You know, I think we'll go back to COVID and what COVID taught us as coaches or programs, and that's that we had to be adaptable. We had to be able to pivot on a dime. And the House case has really reinforced that, because we've gotten partial information, or we've gotten it, you know, in maybe not the best fashion, or it hasn't come out. And so the question is who do we serve, and how do we serve them both best? So start with your current student athletes. There was so much misinformation out there in terms of what was going on. So we found ourselves probably every 2 weeks having a team meeting and saying, this is what we know, this is where we're going, this is how you're going to be treated. And you know, if it changed, we shared that information with them. And then we're very transparent in terms of what our process would be in terms of having a program, keeping a program, trying to hit target numbers. And so, you know, when Coach Wadley raised the money for our current facility, he had a 10-lane pool built, long course pool. And he's very purposeful with that. And that was because Ohio is a talent-rich state, and he wanted to serve the masses. He liked to carry big teams. He carried a really big team. In fact, we had, I think, 55 swimmers when I took over the men 8 years ago. And so one of my first charges was, you got to reduce the size of the team. So I was able to negotiate a team of 40 men, 40 women. So we've carried 34 swimmers and 6 divers on each side. And so even partway through the year, we were hearing different numbers. So we're hearing 30, we're hearing 22. And where and when we could advocate for our teams, we obviously wanted to have a bigger number. We just, you know, I'm a believer in opportunities. And so when we found out that the Big Ten was going to support 30, and in turn Ohio State was going to support 30, we started the conversations with the team. We still had to recruit, we still have to bring in talent, but we have to honor the experience that the kids have here right now. And so we got to the end of the season, and we probably had about 4 athletes on the women's side and 9 athletes on the guys' side that weren't going to have a roster spot. So what we said is, we're going to create a new team. We're going to call it an RTC, Regional Training Center. And so you'll be allowed to train with the varsity athletes during the non-varsity portion of the season. So we're going to have to declare our 30-person team the day before our first dual meet. So we purposely moved our schedule to November 7th. So we're going to be able to carry a bigger team all the way until November 6th. And so then from November 7th until April 1st, which is the day after the men's NCAA championships, those kids who aren't fast enough yet to be on our varsity 30 will be moved off onto an RTC that will train with either our pros, our post-grads, or a local club. The idea there is, one, to create opportunities, two, to develop kids, which we've built a brand out of doing, and three, just take care of the people that we already had here. Now, that being said, some kids are going to stay, and we have kids training with us this summer who are going to stay at Ohio State, get their degree, but may not be on the varsity 30. We've got kids that have already been accepted to other universities to swim there who continue to train with us here this summer. And so, I'm very proud of how our staff managed what was really a difficult situation. And not everybody felt good about it, right? If you have a spot taken away, but at the end of the day, it wasn't our coaches that made the decision to go down to 30, and it wasn't our decision to, but it is Ohio State, and we still want to field competitive programs.
If I talk to, depending on who I talk to, I get different opinions. And I've talked to some pretty smart people, and I also talk to data nerds. I talked to a mutual friend. I think you're friends with Jamie Bailey at SwimIntel.
Yeah.
And I'm a big proponent and really love what he's doing. But it's I also like his data.
Yeah, same here.
It's a and he gives me a peek inside of what's going on and what he's developing. But it was he said, you know what, Mel, it's not going to be the bloodbath that everybody thinks it is. Some names might change. We might see some different universities prioritizing swimming. We're going to find out who prioritizes swimming. But and he goes, we're going to see some talent go to some other schools. He goes, we might see some great D2 and D3 programs pick up talent, or mid-majors. He goes, but I don't think it's as bad as everyone thinks it is. And he goes, so I'm not ready to project a doom and gloom yet.
Yeah.
And interestingly, our editor-in-chief, Braden Keith, is he's an astute guy. He's followed everything very closely. And he's like, I don't think this is good, but I don't think it's as bad as everyone thinks it is. I think that our culture is going to reorient, and we're going to see and we're also going to see some dynamic schools and athletic departments do really interesting creative things, which you've just described to me. If I'm 16 years old and I'm on the bubble, and I would want to take a chance on a big state school and be a big D1 program, because I would want to earn my spot. Maybe I wouldn't get it my freshman year, maybe not my sophomore year, but maybe I could get it my junior year. And I think that's so yeah, I like that. I didn't. This is so yeah. Is this something is this part of your recruiting process?
Well, it's kind of like the in and out menu, right? There's that secret menu. And so we've invited a couple of people specifically and said, look, you're an RTC kid. You're not fast enough yet. You and I both know you're going to be really fast, but it's going to take a little bit of time. I can think on our current roster of 4 guys, I wouldn't be able to recruit with the current 30-person roster. Daniel Baltes, Evan Fentress, Mario McDonald, and Charlie Clarke, all NCAA guys. All 4 of them have gotten second swims at trials, but they weren't ready at 16 or 17 years old. And that's okay. Now, I will share this on that 30-person roster. On the guy side, we're going to go 25 and 5, 25 swimmers, 5 divers. On the women's side, we're going to go 24 and 6, 24 swimmers, 6 divers. And we have a great history, great tradition in diving, and we're going to continue to support that.
I'm a Charlie Clarke fan. I am.
He's a dog. Charlie Clarke, 426 out of Sandusky High School, right? 426, 500 free. He's been on the national team for 5 years straight. And he doesn't have talent. He will go through a brick wall. He is TUFF tough. He's up there. He gets locked out of his pool. He goes into Lake Erie. It's probably like 62 degrees, and he sends me a picture. He's got blood coming down his face because a snake bit him while he was swimming in the lake. And he's smiling. I got to have that kid on my team.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I didn't know that much color, but it's definitely going to make the clip for social media. You just landed it. Wow. Did he share that picture publicly?
He has it. I mean, he would share it in a second. Yeah, no, it's an awesome picture.
I want that picture.
Yes, yes.
No, I'm a fan, and it's you know what, it's a good question. It's you see coaches get extremely excited about talent that performs, and it's like we all know him. There was a guy on my team. His name was Eric Top. He could barely walk. 500 free. I don't think he could break 5 minutes in a 500 free, but he trained with me in the lane for 200 fly.
Yeah.
And that guy finaled at NCAAs, and he finaled at Olympic trials in 200 butterfly. Ended up going a 159 low, which was fast back then. And,
Eric was my volunteer assistant at Penn State when he was getting his MBA.
yeah, Eric Top is just, it was tough. And I was like, somebody asked me about training, and I'm like, yeah, I was a grinder, but I know guys that worked harder than I did. Like, I know I can say, nah, Eric Top worked harder than I did. He's an EVP at Amazon now
I believe
in,
that.
in logistics.
Yeah,
And he's a big player in the corporate world. But
which is
it's
awesome and well deserved, right?
not a surprise.
Yeah.
Not a surprise. But I love those swimmers. Do you have another example?
Yeah, Daniel Baltes, right? I mean, Daniel just made the U.S. team for World University Games. He never swam a long course meet before he came to Ohio State. He was a three-sport guy. Trip Hedrick out of Iowa says, "Bill, you need to bring this kid in, right?" I mean, he ran the wishbone. He was the quarterback in high school, and he is an athlete. He wasn't a great swimmer when he came here, and he just got better and better and better and better. And so I love those kids. And so when you talk about the house case, I mean, it hurts my heart to not have opportunities for those kids. We still need to recruit our blue chip kids, right? We're going to build around those kids, but we're always going to have a place for those kids that are late bloomers or late to the sport, or just, they just haven't got there. And the most important word is yet.
Do you think that men are developing later in their
20%,
careers now?
20%. Yeah, 20%.
It seems like, here's the thing: the older generations, you're watching the NCAA final, you might be watching half the Olympic final, and now that's not necessarily the case. But it feels like it feels like men don't. It feels like they don't become men until late in their college careers, and it seems like it's later than later. But I don't have data to back that up. It's just what I've seen. So you're saying 20%?
Well, I share that, and I'm going to overshare here, and I get in trouble sometimes. But our second oldest son um, had a learning disability, and as part of helping him and creating support for him, we did family therapy, and the family therapy included being able to advocate for people, and part of that advocacy was becoming knowledgeable, right? And so the average young man lags his female counterparts in terms of frontal lobe development by 20%. And the frontal lobe is where the good stuff happens, right? Foresight, hindsight, impulsivity. And so when you think in those terms, and you have two 18-year-olds, that 18-year-old young man might be 3.6 years behind his female counterpart, which is why we see these kids come to college and have such great success as juniors and seniors. And so I think it's important to continue to create opportunities for these people.
When is when is that consequential communication happening? Are you at your desk
I am.
with recruits? Are you at your desk? Are you in somebody's living room? Are you, are you having a cup of coffee? It's like over breakfast. It's like when are you typically having that conversation where it's like, okay, this is the conversation where this kid's going to make a decision and I'm making a decision on, and are we going to be married? Because it's like, I've always said that a swimming coach or college coach, that's a third parent. It's
Right.
a consequential relationship. So
Yeah.
where does the conversation happen? Where's the magic happen?
It actually happens here, so on a recruiting weekend, and we're pretty selective in the kids that we bring out on visits, and we might have 6 men and 6 women. And I don't have a lot of bias before the meeting. And so I have a one-on-one meeting with most of the kids that come to visit. And, I'll ask a series of questions, and I go a lot on fit, and I go a lot on gut. And so my coaches will get frustrated sometimes because we'll come out of a meeting and they'll say, "Well, what did you think?" And I'll say, "Well, I just offered him a full ride." And they'll be like, "You what?" and I mean, you know, it just, it works a lot of the time.
Allegedly, Ray Buzzard at the University of Tennessee back in this 70s, because they were NCAA champions back. I'm an alum, and they were NCAA champions, I think, in 1978. He would take them to the football field and have the swimmers jump up and touch the goalpost. He was, and so he was testing their vertical leap.
Yeah.
Do you test their vertical leap?
Well, I just watched a kid on Instagram do a broad jump the other day. I was pretty impressed with. I can't say a name, but yeah, I like athletes.
Yeah, it's fascinating how you come across talent, and they haven't swum meters,
Right.
but they've got snap. They can jump off the wall. So the magic happens there. It's in the room. So if I'm an athlete and I'm walking into the room and I want to be a part of the scarlet and gray, what qualities are you looking for?
Well, a lot of times parents will be in here, and I would just say for parents, let your son or daughter answer the questions, because I'm recruiting them, right? And so no disrespect, but they're the one I'm going to have a 4 or 5 year relationship with, and we need to know if we're a good fit for each other. You know, a lot of it is just, this is interesting. So Ohio State is coming up with a new unit in athletics. It's a data analytics unit, and you know, with NIL and revenue share and everything else, I think they want to know the market. And so I sat in this meeting with 4 or 5 other head coaches, really good head coaches, and they were saying, well, what are some of the things that are important? And I'll share a couple of things that are a little bit crazy. Children of first generation Americans tend to do pretty well. Children whose parents have served in the military tend to do pretty well. Kids who've faced some adversity at some point in their life tend to do pretty well. GPA isn't the biggest predictor of success. I think, you know, and as we went through that, you know, our tennis coach goes, holy smokes. He said, Pete Sampras, Andrew Agassi, name somebody else. He goes, all first generation parents were first generation Americans. And so I don't know, there's not an exact formula, but you know, talking about SwimIntel, right? So they put out a nice graphic, and I didn't ask them to. I didn't even know they were going to. And they said, you know, Ohio State's women, they win the Big Ten championship, and they have, on average, the 6th best recruiting class in the Big Ten, not in the country, in the Big Ten. So one of 2 things is probably true. Either the ranking is wrong, because I'm going to tell you right now, there's no way those girls we recruited were the 6th best. They were really good. They just hadn't gotten there yet. Right? Second is, if you find that fit and you've got a system to develop kids, that to me is where the magic happens. So sure, it's nice to have a beautiful stroke and you know, the right vessel, be real tall or great feel for the water, but there's a lot that goes into it, right?
Sometimes I wonder, is there a money ball in swimming?
There's no question there is, but some of it is stuff you can't measure, right? Like or maybe you could, but I just don't have the right metric to measure it.
Sounds like you're sharing some key metrics that matter.
Right.
I mean,
to me, you know.
Oh no, when I think about athletes, I always high achievers, and those that and some that develop late.
Yeah.
And some that come on and you're like, wow, that beast was always lurking inside of you, and you just couldn't, the mind body connection just didn't connect until a certain period of time. But when it did, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm always looking for grit, and there's the seeds of where grit comes from they're kind of unchanged. They're always the same.
Yeah.
And you're describing it. I'm almost getting emotional listening to you. I like that. So mom and dad, when you're in the meeting with Coach Dorenkott, let your kid talk. You've had your full 18 years. You've done your job. You gotta let them stand on their own 2 feet. That's fun. Trust them. All right. It's you know, coming in for this summer. Tell me what's going on for the summer and what you're thinking about, because there's it's, you know, post-Olympic years, I love them. I usually take a short vacation with my wife once and then take another short vacation. Then I try to get a longer vacation because, and it's not that the workload changes. You know, the Olympic year is typically an easier year. You know, it comes down to one event. Other years can be much more busy, but the stress is down. Um, you know, describe what it's like in your neck of the woods.
I mean, these are the years where we kind of, you know, we make our living, right? Because when other people might be taking a break or, you know, putting their feet up, this is where we're finding that next round of kids, right? The kids are going to, you know, be popping in 2028. And so, you know, these past 2 weeks have been really hectic here. We run 9 workouts a week, 3 lifts, just finished 10 days of camp. Recruiting started up June 15th. We had a really good showing at US trials. We backed that up a week later with a great showing at Canadian trials. And so our coaches, they are in it. I leave for Europe tomorrow. I'm going to go over to the U18 meet and then stay over there for I'm sorry, U23 and then U18. And so it's, yeah, I feel a little bit like the guy that's spinning plates, right? You know, on, you know, 2 feet, 2 hands.
I meant to ask this when we were talking about recruiting, and I don't want to forget it, but I know you've increased your camp offerings. If I'm a kid and I'm thinking, you know, I think camps are fantastic if you're looking at universities. You know, what a great way to embed, live it, breathe it, eat, rub shoulders with the staff. Um, you know, if I want to go to the University of Ohio, what's and I use a camp for that experience. What can I expect?
I I believe that in the future, you know, and we'll use the house case as an example, but really, I think that universities have the unique opportunity to offer aquatic programming from you know, learn to swim all the way through master swimming, and that camp, um, you know, ecosystem is just a small part of it. But when I look at our camp offerings, I really think it should go from kind of the novice summer league country club kid all the way up to the highest performer. And so we try to mirror that in what we do. So in the month of May, we offer just stroke clinics. Sunday, 2.5 hours, 4 Sundays in the month of May. And in fact, I run those. And I find a great deal of value in that, breaking strokes down, building them up, teaching them. And it's funny, you mentioned Ray Buzzard before, because I would bet some 2-kick fly and some other drills that you used back in the day that we still use here because they work. Then when we go to June, we have an overnight camp, which is a completely different experience than our high performance clinics, which are short weekend driven clinics, which are for really your higher achieving athletes or those who want to achieve at a higher level. The overnight camp is a traditional camp experience. You get everything, right? Just being on a college campus. And you know, whether it's my staff, whether it's some of our athletes that work with the campers, it's a great way to learn. And the thing that we say to the campers is the same progressions, the same drills, the same techniques that we use with our Olympians, our national team, our All-Americans are the ones we use with you. And not too long ago, our kids were in your same seat. So we get excited about camps.
Your camp offerings increased, and it's I like the business model. I like how it fits into the ecosystem of swimming. Definitely universal. I don't know if there's a head coach out there that's giving 100% of the revenue back to their staff. That you might be a unicorn. Is that a decision you know? How did you arrive at that decision?
Well, I have a selfish motivation. Our coaches make a lot of money, which means it's hard for them to leave, right? So you know, I want really good coaches and I want them to stay. And you know, that's just being honest. The second is it's the right thing to do. You know, I'm at the tail end of my career. I'm well compensated by the university. And so, you know, if I can help our coaches out who have young families, then that's what I want to do.
We're an Olympic quad. We have a domestic Olympics. It feels like it really matters. Feels consequential. Uh, how do you feel about Team USA at this moment? You know, I think that Team USA women, I'm really bullish. Team USA men, I'm not bullish, but I'm also feel like I'm sober. It's like I know that we always show up when it matters. But at
Sure.
this moment right now, with the changeover in talent, I don't know. It's cautious.
So here's where I'm nervous, Mel. You look at the SEC and they go down to 22 spots, and you're going to give some of those spots to diving. And so some of your underrepresented events, two fly, 4 IM, distance swimming, I get nervous that those opportunities aren't going to be there for some of our rising stars in the sport.
Hmm.
And I think our best kids need to be with our best coaches. And that may mean some of our best coaches have to take on a little bit of extra work. And so we're talking only about what's best for United States swimming. And so I think as we look into the future, we have to create opportunities for the future.
Okay. You talked a bit about House NC2A. I appreciate you getting into that. And I have not heard anyone coming at this change in our culture with as robust a plan. I love hearing that. Look into your crystal ball. It's 2029. Even if we performed badly, I still think USA Swimming and Team USA will still fare pretty well in a domestic Olympic Games. If you look at the data, countries typically do. I think our registration will increase. Where will NC2A swimming, specifically D1 NC2A swimming, be in 2029?
Goodness. I mean, will we have a Power Four, or will we just have one mega conference? Will we, I don't know. I think that we have to be proactive. I personally would love to see, just like, I watched the College World Series final in Omaha, iconic venue. I think Indy would be well suited to be that venue for collegiate swimming well into the future.
Yeah.
I think Indianapolis does a great job in terms of hosting amateur sports. I think that we'd be well served having an identity, and I think part of that could be right there in Indianapolis. So who knows where we're going to go in terms of scholarships and teams and everything else. I do believe college swimming will be around in one form or fashion, whether that's mega clubs, where the college kids are part of that club, but yeah, maybe that's a little bit further than 2029.
I've heard a few peers and some people who I consider pretty smart in the sport saying, you know what, we all wanted ISL, but we had one billionaire, and it's like if he went away and he did, it wouldn't exist. But what we're seeing at the college level, in a sense, is becoming our pro league. It's money's flowing. There's an offer on the table now. It's like, can they bet at the NC2A? I don't know if you saw that news.
Unbelievable. No, I did see it. Yeah.
Yeah. It just seems like commercially all the guardrails are being ripped away, but so I don't have an answer for that. But I think it would be interesting if we did see this some sort of a commercial enterprise in college sports, and if it was some version of pro. That's because that's where a lot of the passion is.
We're probably not far from it. The question is how will it be funded? Yeah. Because what we have right now is not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. I think it could be, but I think it could be, but that sounds like a deeper conversation for another podcast in the future.
Agreed.
Is there? I've been projecting. I'm asking you to look into your crystal ball too many times. That's not fair, and it's certainly without fair warning. Is there anything you would like to share, maybe that I didn't cover?
We had talked prior to the podcast about scholarships and what that'll look like. And I was asked this week via email to share what our scholarship projections will look like moving into the future. And I was very hesitant to share that. And I'm going to tell you why. There's a saying that comparison is the thief of joy. And that information is going to do a couple things, right? One is you're going to have competitive peers who are going to go into their bosses and say, well, school X has this much money, I need this much money. And I've seen programs drop. Power 5, Division I programs dropped because head coaches went in and said, I can't be competitive if I don't have a new pool. I can't be competitive if I don't have X, Y, or Z. And so I think we need to be really careful. I can tell you this, we don't have 30 scholarships. We don't have 22 scholarships. We got a little bit of a bump. I'm amazed that a place like Ohio State can continue to carry 36 sports and honor them with the expectation to compete at a high level. I'm grateful to be a part of that. But again, it's not sustainable in my opinion.
Fair enough. Well, finalist for the national team director for United States Swimming, now going into your 18th season at Ohio State. We appreciate your perspective. Will you come back on? We'll force you to look at your crystal ball again.
No, anytime. I'm grateful for the opportunity to share. I'm grateful for the work we do together. I'd like to give you a shout out. We talked about camps a little bit. A big part of our camp growing has been, our partnership with SwimSwam. And, we've more than doubled our numbers here in the past 2.5 years. And you guys are a big part of that.
A lot of people don't know this, but they think that I probably don't do a lot of small things. I manage that. And I manage it for a specific reason. So I don't give it to anybody else. I manage it directly. It's because it's coaches. Yeah. Because camps can be, it's a new iteration. You're saying it pays for your assistant coaches, but it could be that coaches, college fund for their kid, or they're, a part of what builds their retirement. So I've always known that camps were really important to coaches. So I manage it directly with joy.
Well, and I see how hard you work. I mean, you're the guy, you're on weekends and evenings so it's appreciated, and I'm very grateful.
It matters. All right. We're going to bring you back on. For anybody out there listening, we're also going to have a feature on Coach Dorenkott coming up in the 2025 college preview. So make sure you pick up your magazine. You're going to love that. And I gave you the parting thoughts, so I'm just going to say, good to see you. Enjoy your summer, and we'll pick you up soon.
Always good to see you, Mel. Thanks. Bye.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.